Today I'm going to read Princess Disgrace, second term at Tall Towers. Wow, what a feast! Chapter 15 Huffle. Grace stared at the tiny dragon pup. She had never seen anything so extraordinary in all her life. "It's definitely a coronet crimson," he whispered. Hetty held out her arms and Flump jumped right into them. "Imagine being terrified of something so adorable," chuckled Hetty. "We're supposed to be a dragon hound who can fight off three-headed serpents with one snarl." The enormous dog buried his head in his paws and whimpered. "Look!" Grace pointed to the dragon's tiny fluttering wings. They were framed with gold. The mother wings were tipped with silver. That means he was a boy, I think. "He's so cute!" cooed Hetty, pushing forward. But Grace held her back. "Wait, the mud dragon could return in any moment," she said, glancing anxiously across the ledge towards the blue sky and rolling sea. She wouldn't leave her pup alone in the nest for long. Huff! The little dragon opened his mouth as to warn them away. A tiny orange spark flew into the air. "Oh no!" cried Grace. "He set his nest on fire!" The dry seaweed crackled. The little dragon had breathed just one flickering spark, but it was enough. Red flames leaped up around tiny pup. "Ow!" howled Flump. The frightened dragon flapped his flimsy wings, but he was far too young to fly. "We have to save him!" cried Grace. The little dragon looked so tiny and helpless. She dashed forward and stamped her heavy riding boots down the glowing flames, tramping with wild circles around the tiny, terrified pup. In every dance Clash had ever been to, Grace had been told to land gently on her feet, but now she stomped and dumped and clumped her all she was worth. "Behind you!" cried Eddie as another flame shot up in the air. Grace twirled and spun around quicker than she had ever been polite. The seaweed crunched and crackled as she crashed the boots down the last sleeping flame and the fire went out. "Well done, you saved him!" cheered Hetty. Grace clutched her stomach, gasping for breath. "Now you listen to me, young Mr. Huffle," said Grace, crouching down and staring into the baby dragon's big gold eyes. "Don't you go setting yourself in fire that ever again. You frightened me half to death." Huff! The tiny dragon puffed again, but this time there were no flames, just a ring of smoke. He edged closer to Grace, all this fear gone. He seemed to know she only wanted to help. "The poor thing," said Grace as the little creature opened and closed his mouth like a baby bird. "I think he's hungry." She felt dry seaweed in the nest. It crumbled like dead leaves beneath her fingers. "No wonder this burns so easily," she said. "The mother dragon is supposed to keep it wet. I read it in a book I found in the library. Dragons fly out to sea every hour, so fetch water in their mouths to dampen the nest so any little sparkles baby breath won't set it on fire." "That means the mommy dragons run away," said Hetty, creeping closer. Grace looked at the seaweed and nodded. "This nest should be soggy as pong," she said, "but it's dry as paper. I don't think the mother dragon has been here for a very long time." "She's abandoned him," gasped Hetty. "Why should she do that? Poor little Huffle." "Perhaps something has happened to her," said Grace as the dragon pup nibbled the hem of the riding habit. "Something that means she can't come back." Grace looked out of Sapphire Sea again. Just a few minutes earlier she had been afraid that the mother dragon would return. Now she wished that she would. "Many dragons were lost after my uncle drove them away from the Coronet Island," said Hetty, "but he didn't mean it for it to be like that. But smugglers came to took them for the new nest sites. They captured the dragon to sell at traveling fairs, or kept them in cages to use in fights." Grace shuddered. "I hope that hasn't happened to the beautiful dragon I saw. She must have been Huffle's mother. If she really is the last coronet crimson in the world, she'd certainly be very valuable. Somebody would get a lot of money for selling such a rare creature." "Huff!" the little dragon cried out again. "But she is not the last coronet crimson anymore, is she?" Grace jumping to her feet. "No signs the little fellow hatched." She pointed to the bits of green broken eggshell at the edge of the nest. Huff! The red pup gasped and thumped his tail on the seaweed. "We have to look after him," said Grace. "Without his mommy he'll die." Heidi clapped her hand in excitement. Can he be our dragon? She asked. Grace wished more than anything that they could raise Huffle by themselves, but after a moment she shook their head. We have to fetch Keeper Falcon, she said. He's the school gamekeeper. He'll know what to do. No! Heidi grabbed Grace's hand. Her eyes are wide and worried as Huffle's. If we tell Uncle Falcon, he'll drive Huffle away, just like he did with all the dragons. Grace remembered how Keeper Falcon had smiled when he told her he had got rid of every current crimson on the island. Grace felt her stomach twitch with fear. She looked down at the tiny, helpless pup. He was right. They would have to keep Huffle's secret, for the moment, at least. He's too small to do any harm, she said. He can even fly off this ledge and his wings are stronger. She looked at his still, steep cliff face that rose above them, and the deep drop of the sea below. The only way anyone can reach him out here is if they come through the cave. And no one's going to do that, said Heidi, clapping her hands again. The entrance is hidden by all that ivy, and the gemstone glade so sacred. Nobody at Toll Towers ever goes there anyway, said Grace. The princesses will be safe. Huffle is only a baby, and we will be the only people who will come anywhere near him. The two girls hugged in excitement, being very careful not to go anywhere near the edge of the white ledge. The first thing we need to do is find Huffle something to eat, said Grace, crouching beside him, and we'll have to keep the nest wet too. Huff! The little dragon cried out again, but quieter this time. The weaker, he crawled out in his net and little sides puffing up and down. It was impossible to imagine he would ever grow up into a fierce, fire-breathing beast. Right now he was more like a poorly puppy. Even Flum crept a little closer to look, he said on one side. Poor Huffle is so hungry, said Hetty. But what does a baby dragon eat? Milk, said Grace, jumping up so fast that she almost tripped over Flum. All babies like milk. It will feed him some that he'll be strong again in no time. Where are you going to get milk from? Asked Hetty. Yaks? Suggested Grace. There aren't any yaks on Coronet Island, silly, giggled Hetty. Cows then, said Grace. There's a school dairy herd. They graze in the field behind the stable. Come on. Grace blew a kiss to Huffle. Don't worry, she said. We'll be back here in a bucket of frothy milk in no time. I'm not good at dancing, but I know how to milk a yak or a cow. I expect it just works the same way. You can't do that, scoffed Teddy. You're people told Towers you're royal, you are a princess? Grinned Grace. That doesn't mean I can't get my hands in a tiny bit dirty. Chapter 16. A Runaway Unicorn. The girl was so excited they almost ran back to the cave, tripping in the darkness as they hurried towards the bright light outside. Flum has already bolted in Gamestone Lake, determined to get as far away from the little dragon as he could. Don't worry, Huffle, we'll be back soon, Grace called over her shoulder. Her mind was reeling with the spinning ballerina. They had a real dragon pup to look after, a secret only she and Hetty would know about. It was just almost brilliant that ever happened to her. All we need to do is jump on Billy and ride to the cow pasture, she said. But as they stepped out into the sunny glade, Hetty's face turned as white as a bucket of milk. Where's Billy? She gasped. I tied him to that tree. I know I did. I used the special safety knot you taught me. Grace stared at the birch tree. There was no sign of Billy, just a frayed length of rope, no longer than a hair ribbon. I'm so sorry, Hetty's eyes filled with tears. I really thought I tied him properly. I'm sure you did, smiled Grace kindly. She felt the end of the rope. It was damp and soggy. I just thought. Billy chewed out through this, she said. There was nothing you could have done to stop him. Grace leaned to the glade, but the naughty unicorn was long gone. He's so greedy. I thought he's headed to his stable if there are any fresh peaches in his troop, he said. Come on, we better find him. They heard hoots approaching behind and turned around. It wasn't Billy. It was Chalky, the unicorn foal. He followed close behind Eddie, trying to catch up whenever she walked faster. You really got a friend there, laughed Grace as they hurried to the trees. Grace, she wasn't too worried about Billy. She was sure she had come tired of waiting and taking herself back to Toll Towers. But as they came out of the woods, she had heard someone calling on the path. Grace, Grace, are you there? Is it me? Grace answered the call. Are you all right? Said Scarlet, shouting now. At a moment later, Grace's friends came around the corner. Are you hurt? asked Izumi. We were worried you had a fall, explained Scarlet. Billy came charging down the drive towards school. When we saw he had no driver, we thought something terrible might happen. He pointed back to the track. Peaches appeared, riding Billy's saddle towards them. She was holding his reins far too tight, and Billy was tossing his head furiously. You didn't fall off, did you, Grace? sneered Precious, pulling even harder so that Billy came to a stop. You weren't even riding, were you? No, Billy was tied to a tree, said Grace, trying desperately not to mention either Glamstone, Great the Dragon pup. Hetty and I were just having a ride lesson, said Precious, cutting across her. Look. She slid to the ground and held out the stirrup leathers. Anyone could see they were far too short for Grace's long, spindly legs. Precious glared at Hetty. This only person who could have needed stirrups this short is a servant girl. Hetty had risen up on tiptoes that was stretching her neck in air just like the unicorn foal, who was still right behind her. It did nothing look her taller. I'm sure Hetty wasn't riding, said Izumi. Only princesses were allowed to ride unicorns. Grace threw her hands in the air. Honestly, was Izumi going to be just as snobby as Precious? She had never thought her friend would care about silly rules like that. And now Scarlet was joining in too. Grace definitely knows what body except a princess ever allowed to ride a unicorn, she said gently. I didn't actually, not until recently, snapped Grace. Perhaps she was better off not being friends with any princesses if they were going to be like this. I think rules like that should be obeyed, said Izumi quickly. That's what you think, isn't it, Grace? She caught as she had something caught in her throat. Oh, suddenly Grace understood. Oh, Scarlet Izumi didn't think it was wrong for Hetty to have a go on Billy if she wanted to. Of course it didn't. Grace should have known better than that. They just didn't want Precious to cause trouble. Hetty knows she isn't allowed to ride a unicorn, don't you? Smiled Scarlet, crouching down so that she was almost the same height as the little girl. Hetty shook her head, then nodded. Then she shook again as she didn't know whether to tell the truth to Precious or agree with Scarlet's excuses. In the end, she settled to curtsy to both of them. Have you seen the lovely foal who is following her? I mean us, said Grace, pointing at Chalky to change the subject. She taught Scarlet and Izumi a quick smile of thanks. He's gorgeous, said Izumi, as bright as moonlight. And looks like a cute horn, cute Scarlet. He's beautiful, isn't he? Agreed Hetty. She stretched out her hands to stroke his nose. Don't touch him, shrieked Precious. At that, the unicorn turned and galloped away into the woods. You frightened him, cried Scarlet. And Billy, too, said Grace, taking her own unicorn away from Precious. A servant has no right to even touch a unicorn, snapped Precious. I know what you've been up to here, Grace, you and your little friend. Grace's heart felt her heart thud against her chest. Had Precious followed them? Surely she didn't know the dragon pup. There was no way she could have found one out about that. I know you've given that girl riding lessons, said Precious, waving her hands toward Hetty. I'll find a way to prove it, then I'll report you to Flintheart. Grace felt her shoulder relax. Precious had no idea of how full. She was still just talking and breaking silly royal rules. You're probably going to expel, snarled Precious, turning to back the hill and storming away down the path. Small Izumi when Precious was out of sight. Scarlet, who was always a terrible giggler, began to laugh. Soon Grace was laughing too, and even Hetty joined in. Only a princess is allowed to ride a unicorn, mimicked Izumi, sticking her nose in the air and flicking her short black fringe, so that at the moment it was possible to imagine she had Precious' long buttered yellow curls. Thank you for both sticking up for us, said Grace. That's what friends do, shrugged Scarlet, and threw their arms around each other in an enormous hug. I should have known you'd better be as stuck up as Precious, said Grace. So we're friends again? Said Izumi. Of course, said Grace as they hugged each other all over again. Grace could have skipped for joy as they headed along the path towards school. She was back with her two best friends at last. Henry was just behind them, leading Billy. He didn't dare to ride him in case Precious came back. Flop was bounding along ahead. Everything was perfect. So, where did you have your riding lesson? Asked Izumi. Was it somewhere top secret? Grace felt a cloud pass her ago again. Oh, nowhere special, she heard herself say. She knew Izumi would love to see the gemstone laid. She was desperate to paint the beautiful flowers, but Grace couldn't risk taking her there, not while Huffle was hiding in the ledge beyond the cave. Izumi might be happy to help her break a silly, unfair rule like the uncle said only princesses were allowed to ride a unicorn. But she was much more sensible than Grace. She vowed to report a dragon to the school, even if it was only a pup, small enough to fit in the little chest where I keep her things. Yes, tell us all the fun thing you two got up to, said Scarlet, smiling at Hetty and Grace. Nothing much, said Grace quickly. She felt the cloud hovering her grow darker still, but she definitely couldn't tell Scarlet about dragon. The red-haired princess was so nervous she probably ran screaming right into the school. Oh, said Scarlet. Right, said Izumi. Her two friends could tell that Grace was holding something back. We'd better take Billy to the stable, said Grace. Hetty can help me. She didn't want the girls to come in case they saw her trying to milk the cows. She knew she had to feed Huffle soon. See you later, said Scarlet, sounding a little sad. Yes, Grace, of course. The secret dragon pup was rippling inside her. As she watched Scarlet and Izumi turn towards school, it was still she could feel the friendship drifting away again. She wanted to tell them everything. She knew she couldn't. She had to promise she could keep the little dragon pup safe. Chapter 17. Cows. As soon as Billy was settled safely into the stable, Hetty and Grace slipped under a fence and into the field of cows. Grace was carrying an empty water bucket. We can take the milk back to Huffle in this, he said. All right, old girl, she said, gently painting the cow's rump as she knelt beside her udder and began to milk. I've never thought I'd seen a princess doing this, giggled Hetty. Can you imagine we have milking lessons for every day, told our princess? Laughed Grace, picturing the girls in the pretty white pinafores. At least I wouldn't be such a terrible student then. I've had plenty of practice with the yaks at home. Flump, who had followed them into the field, plucked up his courage and tried to sniff the end of the cow's nose. Moo! The cow blew back at him. Poor Flump sprang into the air and ran yelping in a wild circle. Steady, soothed Grace, painting one she was milking, but it was hopeless. The big cow joined her friends. Wow! Grabbed the milk. Hetty! Cried Grace, but it was too late to save herself. As the cow changed forward, Grace tipped over and splat, first head into the muddy puddle. Oh dear, you do look funny! Hetty was shaking so hard with laughter that milk was stopping out of the pail. Thick brown mud was spattered all over the front of Grace's clothes and puddle water dripped on the end of plates. Now I am really a disgrace, she said, throwing her head back and laughing as hard as Hetty. Plum, who was even filthier, jumped into Grace's arms for protection from the cows. Look out! Cried Hetty. Grace topped over the backboard this time. Splat! Now all of her was covered in mud. You look like a monster from the swamp, she groaned. I look like a monster from the swamp, she groaned, staying up and dripping. Save me, Plum! Cried Hetty, pretending to be terrified and running away from screaming. Grrr! Roared Grace, chasing her towards the gate. But a moment later, there was a real scream. It was Precious peering out of the stable yard. What the state of you, she squealed. Goodness, what happened? As Scarlet and Grace oozed and splotched her way up the stairs to attic the Normandy high in the top of the tower. Grace decided it's best to stick the truth as much as possible, so long as she didn't have to mention the certain baby dragon. I fell over the cow field and then fallen down on me, she said. Where were you doing in the cow field in the first place? Said Izumi. Oh, nothing much, blushed Grace. This was getting harder and harder. She wished she could tell her friends the whole truth. I'll tell you what she was doing, said Precious, who came painting up the stairs after Grace. She was helping the servant girl to steal a bucket of milk. She was so scruffy and poor, I bet she doesn't have enough to eat. That's terrible, said Scarlet and Izumi together. Yes, isn't it? The horrible little thief, cowed Precious. I mean, it's terrible if Hetty doesn't have enough food to eat, sighed Izumi. Poor thing. It's not like that, said Grace desperately. A thief is a thief, snapped Precious. I'm going to tell on her. Hetty wasn't stealing anything, said Grace. She shook her head so that muddy water flew off the ends of the plates and in all directions and got off the duck. Sorry, she said. What were you doing? Screamed Precious, who was bright in the eye. Hetty has plenty to eat, Grace explained. The only hungry one was the poor dragon pup, looking desperately off the cliff. Grace tried as much as he could. I was the one who wanted the milk, she said. I heard it would make a unicorn's mane shine in moonlight. I thought I would try to wash it as I was shoe. Silly thing, laughed Scarlet. It's not milk, it's the morning dew that makes the unicorn mane shine, smiled easily. Oh, right, kissed Scarlet Grace. Perhaps it was a good thing after all that her friends thought she was a little hopeless. At least they were ready to believe her. Idiot, snapped Precious. You really don't know anything, do you? I'm still telling Fairy Godmother Flint. Still telling me what? A stern voice at the door, the Fairy Godmother appeared from the room. Telling you that I was the one who made a mess on the stairs, said Grace, pushing forward quickly before Precious could say a word. I think I can see that for myself, said Flintheart, glaring down her long, thin nose at Grace, who was still dripping in mud at a pool around her feet. Get yourself cleaned up and then you can scrub the floors until they shine like marble. Yes, Fairy Godmother, muttered Grace, but began Precious. Out of here, the rest of you, snapped Flintheart. You only make matter worse, spreading this muck and muddle everywhere. Go on. Shoo! Scarlet stepped forward and spoke up in a little tiny voice. Couldn't we have Grace, Fairy Godmother, and the job will be done twice as fast? Certainly not, barked Flintheart. Grace was a last lesson. Real princesses do not walk around with pigs in the sea. If I find anyone helping her, Grace will scrub every stairway in the school. We're going, said Izzy, grabbing Scarlet's arm. He dashed away in a flash. Grace knew her friends were only being kind. The whole tower was a lot of stairs. They would make things worse if they tried to stay. Grace scrubbed and cleaned the whirlwind, but still seemed to take hours. Poor Hetty was hiding the milk at the edge of the woods, seriously wondering where Grace had to go. But the clouds of mud were every floorboard and splashes muck on every wall. There was even a filthy handprint right in the middle of the white dormitory door. Flintheart would never let Grace go into still air closets clean. As she worked, Grace could think about the poor little Huffle, who would be growing weaker by the hour, waiting desperately for his milk. Chapter 18. Feeding Huffle. At last the job was done. Grace bowled across the courtyard. See you later, she shouted to Scarlet and Izzy, who were sitting together in the shade under a peach tree. Where are you going now? Izzy hollered after her. Come back! We've been waiting for you for hours. We thought you could do something together, Scarlet called. Sorry, got to go, Grace cried, wishing more deeply than ever she could stay with her friends. Not least they tell them true while they're running off. Suit yourself, snapped Izzy. I don't know what's wrong with you at the moment, Grace. I could have been practicing my ballad, said Scarlet weakly. Oh no, the ballad, thought Grace as she sped out of sight. She had promised to practice this weekend. Scarlet then was already perfect, but Grace barely had a single move, other than wobbling her aunt a crazy scarecrow. I'll have to practice later, she thought, dashing on. It's further than I remembered, panted Hetty, as they reached his cave at last. We're here now, Huffle, whispered Grace, as they scrambled through the dark and stepped out the hidden ledge beyond. They expect the little dragon to be weak and sleepy. But instead he greeted them with a furious cough of flame. Stop that, said Grace, or you'll set your nest on fire again. Pom! Hetty blew her horn. Gucci cat cumbered back, but didn't seem to calm the dragon down. Don't be angry with him, she said. He's just hungry, that's all. I know how he feels, laughed Grace. I get really cranky when I don't eat. I couldn't be really cross with a little dragon anyway, not even after the trouble he had caused. He was just a helpless baby. He wrinkled the end of his long nose as he could smell the milk, and stared Grace with hopeful golden eyes. Huffle stood on shaky legs. He sniffed the milk and blew bubbles across the surface. He stuck his nose in the bucket, snorted, and pulled out again, hissing steam. It's no good, said Grace. He can't drink like that. He's just a baby. But we're going to get a baby bottle from, said Hetty. Uncle Falcon doesn't have any. He won't even feed the baby deer he finds. He says orphan creatures have to learn to look after themselves. Hetty turned her head away, but not before Grace's eyes were full of tears. She thought how horrible it must be to grow up with someone so cold and unscary. Especially when Hetty was orphan herself. You mustn't let him find Huffle, Hetty sniffed. The dragon blew bubbles helplessly in the bucket of milk, then wobbled and fell weakly back into the nest. "I just wish we knew what to do," said Grace. "Pom, pom, pom!" Hetty blew her horn. "At least we've used this old thing might cheer us up while we try to think," she said, drying her eyes. "Wait, that's brilliant!" Grace grabbed the silver instrument. "This horn might be totally useless for calming dragons down, but it's perfect for feeding them." Why, she turned the horn around so that the white bell-shaped end was the closest to her, and pointed out her mouthpiece towards Huffle. Up straightway, the little dragon took his mouth and began to suck. "Quick!" cried Grace. "Grab the bucket, Eddie. Pour a drop of milk down the end of the horn, as if a funnel." "Or a giant baby bottle," laughed Hetty, as the little dragon sucked and drank the milk. Because it was feeding from the end of the horn, the girl would stand far enough to not get burned even if it didn't call flames at them. In no time, the bucket was empty. "All gone," smiled Grace. "Burp!" A perfect smoke ring floated through the air. "I'll beg your pardon," laughed Grace, but Huffle just curled in his nest with his tail wrapped under his chin and fell asleep. Soon he was snoring happily. His tummy looked fat and full. A little puffs of smoke popped out his nostrils with every breath. "If we can feed him like that every day, he'll be strong in no time," said Grace. And she was right. By the end of just 1 week, Huck was no longer than the size of a little piglet. He's grown as big as a foal. I'm done reading it. And now, that's the end. I'm going to read you it next time.